What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a new edition of Collider Forces. I feel like everybody out there probably could already tell how excited I am. Matthew Lillard's on the show.
Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to?
The thousands of people that are going to be watching you. Actually, there's someone right in the other room over there. We have an audience of one right now. We have an audience of three.
Yes. Well, welcome into the den of Collider. Hi, are you? So we were just talking about this interview. Ryan, who we work with at my company, Five Familiar Spirits, was like, you have to prepare for this interview. And I want you to know something. I woke up this morning like 6 a.m. I'm like, how do you prepare for an interview? I'm really nervous that you are going to ask me questions that I don't even know the answers to. Like, are you going to make me cry? Like, what am I in for? I have no idea what I'm in for.
I don't think I'll make you cry. We're a safe space. We have fun. This is much more of a career overview, craft-driven conversation.
Oh, good.
It's talking about, how you've evolved as an actor and also beyond that in this industry, because you got a lot going on right now.
I do have a lot going on, and I like those kind of conversations.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to this moment.
I got you well covered in that department. We're not going to get to those questions just yet. First, we have our Dicey questions. I know you know a thing or two about a dice tower.
I do.
You get 3 rolls on this tower, and each number corresponds to
D8?
a random question.
Okay, good. A D8.
Oh, yes.
I was hoping for a 2.
You got a nice softball for number 2 here.
Aquarius.
It's rap gifts.
Rap gifts?
Yes. What is the most memorable rap gift you've received or given?
Oh, that's so great. I have a lot of catty answers, but I have a fantastic answer that's brand new into my life. So
I'm gonna get excited by this.
And I think you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
So I just did a movie called Life of Chuck that is directed by the one and only Mike Flanagan. And at the end of the process, and the whole thing was sort of this magical experience, he and I met at a lunch, very Hollywood thing. We sat there for like 3 hours and we became good friends over this lunch, as well as you can be over a lunch. And then he said, we're going to work together someday. And that's a very Hollywood thing to say. And I really want to work with everyone who says we're going to work together someday. And a lot of times it doesn't happen. But I was dropping my middle child off at Carnegie Mellon, and I got a phone call in the middle of the morning, and it was Mike Flanagan. And we had been texting back and forth. He said, hey, I have an offer for you. I have this idea. I want you to come play this little part in a movie called Life of Chuck. It's an adaptation of a Stephen King book. And it's not, he was very polite and said, it is a small part and there is no money. And it's, you're going to be gone you're going to fly you out for like 48 hours and fly you back. So there's not a lot of there's a million reasons to say no, but I just think there's something in this part that that will speak to you and that you'll be able to sort of crush. And I said, yes. And he's like, well, you should read it first. I'm like, I'm good. Just yes. And the idea is that when you find a kindred spirit, when you find somebody that you actually authentically like it doesn't matter what the part is. At this point in my life, I just want experiences. I want camaraderie. I want fellowship, and I want to be wanted. And I flew to Alabama, and I have this one scene, and it's the movie.
Good scene.
Oh, you've seen it?
I've seen it. You're very good in it.
You've seen it?
I did see
so
it.
Isn't the movie sort of magical?
I think that short story is magical. And then the most magical thing about seeing a good adaptation is seeing a story on paper that I love dearly brought to life on screen in a way that I couldn't even predict. It comes to life far more strongly than I ever could have imagined.
I didn't read. He said, don't read the short story.
Fair enough.
And so I didn't. And so I still haven't. And I think the movie is this brilliant gem. It just won the Audience Award at Toronto International Film Festival, which is a very big deal. The last 12 movies that have won that award have gone on to be nominated for Academy Awards. It's a tiny movie made with passion and love by Mike Flanagan and his team. And so for me, it was a gift. And I have a great moment in the movie, and I'm really proud of the work. And at the end of the film, the rap gift that Mike gave, I don't know how many people he gave it to, but he, over the course of a year and a half, 2 years, built this book that has an introduction by Stephen King, has a short story by Stephen King, has a short story by Tom Hiddleston, has a short story by Mike Flanagan, has original art, has all these behind the scenes photos. It's handcrafted. It's by the single, like the world renowned bookbinder in England. It's like hand numbered. Like Mark Hamill signed it, Tom Hiddleston signed it. And it is a piece of art that is like exquisite. And so that to me was like, being a part of it was great, but to have this keepsake that is a treasure was it's just the most beautiful gesture and the most like loving like gift. Like I've gotten horrible gifts that are hilarious. I don't even want to get into it, like how crazy, like the idea of giving a gift is so personal to me, and I take it so deeply serious. And to have such a treasure to be gifted to you is like, speaks to who he is,
yes,
who Mike Flanagan is as a man and a human being.
Now you're part of the Flana family. Once you're in that family,
yeah,
you're in it for the long haul.
Listen, I will kill for that man. And just call and I'm coming running. I think you have to do 2 movies to be a part of the Flana fam.
Oh, no.
So we'll see what happens. I think I'll be invited back.
I am eagerly awaiting another collaboration for you and them.
I feel like it's going to happen, but I can only be so lucky.
I manifest things during these interviews. So if I say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I really do think it's going to happen.
Is it weird that I hug you now across the... Is it weird?
Well, I feel like we'll ruin something.
Is that strange? I hope so. I mean, I love him and I love how he works.
Yeah.
And I sort of love how he's the what he curates on set, the way he brings energy to set, the way he sort of respects everyone. And there's like a freedom to him, and there's a simplicity about his direction. And I don't know, I just really, and on top of it, I'm so proud of this weird little scene. You should
be. You keep saying little scene, little role.
I feel like it is a very little. I'm on screen for like 5 minutes.
But that movie to me is the definition of no small roles in anything. Especially, I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but once you realize what that movie is, everything matters. And if everything isn't at a certain level, the movie doesn't stick the landing.
Listen, I have, like, as I go through life now, look, I'm rounding second base, headed to third on a career, and rounding probably third at this point. But, to have a piece of work that you're proud of, which is huge, that hasn't always been the case in my career, and to have a memory, like going up on stage, sitting behind Mark Hamill and Stephen King, going up on stage and looking out at this incredible theater in Toronto, packed to the brim. I'll never forget it. To me, what I thought was incredible about the experience. Am I talking too long about this?
No, I'll listen to you talk about Mike Flanagan and Life of Chuck this whole interview.
You literally can cut all the blithering. But what I hope I never forget is that there was a moment in the darkness in that theater. It's 1,500 or 2,000 people or something. It's in 3 acts. It's not spoiling anything. It's a movie told backwards. And in the silence, there's this 15, 20 second, in between the breaks, there's a 15 to 20 second black screen. And you could hear a pin drop. Like the entire audience was like held in rapture. And that to me speaks to, standing ovation was great, but the silence was profound.
It was probably one of my most memorable screening experiences of TIFF 2024.
Oh, you were there?
I was in the room.
I thought you had seen it. Mike shows it to everyone.
I was in the room, and then on top of that, I was probably like the creep in the corner of your after party eating all the burgers, because that's the only time we can eat during film festivals.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Mike, Tom Chiwetel, and Karen came in for our interview studio, so I was able to. I hadn't seen the movie yet, so it's going to be a whole nother exciting round of interviews now that I can start talking, having come from like a place of knowledge and experience. It's very good. You should be so proud.
Thank you so much.
Second roll in the tower now.
I hope it's as good as the first. That was awesome.
I got some good questions here.
3.
I really like 3. This is other jobs on set. If you could learn more about another job on a film set or in post-production, what would you choose and why?
Well, I would always direct. I would rather direct than ever be an actor. For me, I like leading people. For me, I like engaging all the creatives, right? I've directed one movie. It's called Fat Kid Rules the World. It won the Audience Award at South by Southwest. I'm super proud of it. I left that experience. I'm like, oh, I'm never acting again. I'm going to direct the rest of my life. And it just, it's hard to get directing jobs. It's that thing where that movie, well, we did win the Audience Award. Nobody really gave a damn. And it just lived in oblivion and still lives in oblivion. I actually don't think it's available anywhere, which is crazy because the movie's incredible. I mean, it's my movie, but I think the performances, I'm really proud of it, obviously. But the stories about an obese teenager that finds punk rock music and it saves his life. And I just think that story needs to be told. There's so many kids out there who are feeling like they're on the outside looking in. And so I just wish that movie had a second life. But to me, seeing, working collaboratively with a DP, working collaboratively with wardrobe and props and all of that, and sort of being okay every day, as a director, you're presented a riddle, right? Something's not going to work. And your job every day is to solve the riddle as quickly as you can, with as much elegance as you can, and achieve the greatest success you possibly have before you. And I like that. Because I like being on set. I like sort of working as a team to deliver, to create something that means something, right? And that movie really meant a lot to me. So yeah. So that would be my answer.
What year did you get the South by screening?
2012.
I feel like you should figure out something for an anniversary screening somewhere. Like if it's not available, like that's the way to do it. And I just covered at Fantastic Fest. Corey Feldman had a movie that was made 20 years ago. It went on the festival circuit, and then it was like kind of erased. And now, 20 years later, this movie, The Birthday, is getting a release, a theatrical release. I feel like anything's possible nowadays with that kind of stuff.
Well, I totally agree with you. And definitely like here in LA, there's Vidiots and there's like these independent theaters that I think would be interested. And I just have to, it's that thing where there's a lot of things happening. I'm sure we're going to talk about and that my like sort of highlighting. It's also a place of shame for me because I like directing. I'm going to look back on my life wishing I had done more directing instead of a dumb TV show or, whatever. I wish I had done more, but it's hard, man. It's hard to get that job.
Yeah.
There's only one of them.
Honestly, that's why I sit in this seat. I went to film school, studied, tried, made a movie, and very grateful for that experience.
Sure.
But I definitely walked away from that thinking that was really hard. I much rather would sit here and celebrate other people's hard work.
Right. And I like that hard work. The thing that people don't, at some point in my life when it was coming around, sorry, I'm throwing up in my mouth.
You didn't even drink the crappy energy drink. I did.
It's so as your stomach rots and on digibeta. There's a part of me that when it came up, I think that people don't understand that, it took a year. I read the book on tape. I fell in love with it. I literally have never read a book on tape in my entire life. Before that, I have never been offered a book on tape since that. And I read it. I ended up walking out of the studio sobbing on page 15. I'm like, I have to option this book. Never done that in my life. Still haven't done it. Spent 2 years getting the script made and like optioning it, had the option and ran around. I think it was in 2 years, like 6 years trying to get the movie made. And I would walk into an office and, sort of like in the middle of like Scooby-Doo land. And I was like, I can't make this movie for less than $20 million. It's about this obese teenager, and people back then were like, we're not making that movie. I was like, well, I can't do it for less than $5 million. I can't, it just kept going down and down. And we ended up doing it for $760,000. Rick Rosenthal was my mentor, did it at Whitewater Films, and I love him. His son was my DP, Noah Rosenthal. And I'm so proud of the cast. I'm so proud of the whole thing. But the whole thing, top to bottom, took 10 years.
Yeah.
In production, that took, that took a calendar year to put it together. I had 3 kids, a house, and car. You're like, I'm not independently wealthy. And so it's just one of those things I'm going to regret not doing more of in my life.
No, I can feel the fire and the energy to do it again. It's It's gonna happen.
I have multiple scripts.
Convinced.
If anyone's out there, I have a great Kentucky Fried crime drama.
Ooh.
I have sort of like an adult film, which is about sexuality as you grow older with your wife and family. It's sort of it's this journey through Italy. It's beautiful. So if anyone wants to
speak it into existence, we like to make things happen
manifest.
Here. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Manifest podcast.
I got one last roll for you on the tower.
You roll it.
Okay, I'll roll it. You sure?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right, wrapping it up.
We went right to the top.
Got my silly one. This is my would you rather question.
Okay.
Would you rather have to fake sneeze or fake vomit in a scene? I feel like we just got the fake vomit.
Fake vomit, for sure.
Okay.
Because fake sneeze is not dramatic. I like drama.
I always feel like people don't choose the fake sneeze because it's very difficult to do a convincing fake sneeze.
Oh, I'm so challenged right now. I'm so...
You passed the test. You passed the test.
Do I have snot?
No, you're all
I was acting. I know I don't have snot because I didn't really sneeze.
That's pretty damn
good.
good.
I spit all over my face now.
That was impressive. One day I'm going to cut a reel of all the really great fake sneezes I've gotten on this show. All right. We've hit the meat of our interview. Every single Collider Forces starts with this particular question.
Great.
What is the movie you saw, performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be that first made you say to yourself, I absolutely have to be an actor?
It was none of the above. It was the fact that I was an obese teenager in Orange County, California, a transplant from Detroit, Michigan. And my father said, you can either take a typing class or an acting class. The idea of an acting class is that someday I would be presenting as a salesman. Typing class was obvious at the time. That son of a bitch still made me take a typing class the next year. So I feel like it was kind of like a BS moment for my dad and I. I'm still working through that. But I got into an acting class and it was the one place I could be funny. I had a learning disability. So how I dealt with the uncomfortable position of not knowing and being lost was to be funny. You can't sort of pick on me if I'm funny. People think that, so that defense mechanism was really useful in a world of acting. And so it was the first time in my life, literally, that people, adults, teachers, my parents said, you're good at something. And so for me, being good at something changed my life forever. And I never wanted to be a professional actor. I wasn't like out there going, I'm going to make it in Hollywood. I literally just kept doing the things I loved and found a way, collecting hours, collecting opportunities, collecting moments to sort of rise to the talent pool where I was and then go to LA and sort of rise to a talent. You know what I mean? I just kept working at being great at what I loved. But not to find success or not to make money. Do
you remember when it shifted and you realized this isn't just a passion of mine, but it's going to be a passion plus a career?
No, because I still live. I mean, at 54, I still worry about never working again. I mean, Jimmy Stewart went to his, went to his deathbed thinking, that's it. They may never ask me back. And so look, that insecurity of having a finite career is a really brutal way to live a life, right? And so I've spent most of my life knee deep. I spent the early part of my career like really desperate for more work because I defined myself by what I was working on. Not because I was like wanted to be rich or famous. It was because like in work, I was like, there's something Biden talked about when he was in the election cycle in 2022. No, 2020.
2020.
Oh my God, it's so crazy to me. He talked about the dignity of work.
Yeah.
And I think that the dignity of work for me when I was young was a real thing. If I was working, I felt good about myself. If I wasn't working, I was desperate. And at some point, I couldn't live my life in desperation, and I just flipped everything.
Of all of those early projects, which would you say taught you the most about what you valued in the stories you would go on to tell and what you needed to see in an on-set environment?
Well, that's a great question. So I think as an actor, the thing you have to understand is that you are always for the most part, at my level, at a blue collar sort of working class actor, you are always selling yourself for an opportunity to work. Very few times do I have the privilege of saying yes or no, right? In general, most of my career, I'm begging for a job. I get the job. I'm grateful to be on a job. There are sets. How people run sets is a reflection of who they are as the leader. I think the power of creativity comes when people feel confident, when people feel appreciated, when people feel loved, they can expand. When you are beating people down, when you're micromanaging, when you're directing what your interpretation of every word in the scene is, you're hindering the creative process. So for me, what's important to me is having an environment where there's respect, there's energy, and there's like good vibes. You know what I mean?
I don't understand.
Did that answer that question, or was that too random?
I don't understand how that's not a given on every single set, though.
Yeah.
That will never compute in my brain.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people live in insecure. I mean, I think a lot of people are afraid to let go of the creative intention, right? If I'm a writer, if I'm a director, this is how I see it. I think that when people walk around dominating and instilling in every performer, in every aspect of the creative process, their opinion, their point of view, what it does is that it takes everyone's world experience, lifetime experience, and be like, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is how I see this finite net.
That's like the exact opposite of how a set should run, whereas everybody should be equal collaborators and then all ships rise.
Listen, and I agree with you. I think best idea wins.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case.
No.
But I don't know if I answered your question, to be honest.
I guess the only additional answer I would want to know is maybe a specific on-set experience to start hitting some of your earlier titles, if there's anyone that made an especially big impression on you early on.
Yeah. I think early on in my career, like I look at how John Waters directed Serial Mom, my first film. That's such a seminal moment in my life because I'd never been honest. I mean, I'd done sort of independent films or whatever. But to be on a set with Kathleen Turner in that moment, when she was like an icon, with Sam Waterston, who is an icon, and with this iconic director, I learned everything. It sort of like set the table for the rest of my life, which is fantastic, and it's so long ago. Right, we used to shoot on film. Like you used to have like an hour turnaround. Like makeup and hair used to walk out and look at the lighting to make sure the lighting was right. I mean, so many things have changed. You used to have to wait for clouds to go overhead. Like so many things, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but you have a whole set sitting there waiting for a cloud to pass. It's so foreign to what happens now. But and I'll never forget, I told the story recently at a convention that, Kathleen Turner said, being on a movie is like having a marriage with a built-in divorce. That we are a family for 3 months, that we're together day in and day out. We eat lunch, we go to dinner, we celebrate together, and then we never see each other. And at that time, Sam Waterston, who I adored, would play chess every single day. I love chess. I play chess all the time. And he and I would sit at the sort of a table, and we'd play chess in between takes. Like we'd play like not hundreds of games, but a lot of games every day. And I said to him at the end of the movie, I was like, hey, I'll see you in New York next week. We both live in New York. We'll get together and play chess. And he looked at me. He's like, oh, bud, we're probably not going to see each other next week. We're going back to our, I was like, I'll see you at some point, I'm sure. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, we are going to play chess. And I've never seen Sam Waterston since.
My heart.
And I will say that most of my life, there has been a sort of a veil between me and the fellowship of other actors on set, because of that exact thing. Because I know at the end of it, it all ends, and it's pretty tragic. I mean, it's really horrible. I remember in Without a Paddle, everyone was hanging out, and Seth and Abe were great friends, and everyone would sort of gather and they'd play games and stuff. And I would always, look, at some point I always need a break. I'm on all the time. I like energy. I like to leave with energy, but I would remember like, just why don't I go join them? And it's in the back of my mind. I think that given circumstance of knowing it ends was brutal in a way.
Someone was just telling me about that need to feel on and social on sets and how she had to teach herself it was okay to turn that off and not be that way to best serve her work. And something I think about all the time. Like I watch you at conventions and it's just, that is peak energy. It is peak giving yourself to other people. And you just go from one.
Why do you say that?
So I think I would be able to see this no matter what. But the first convention I ever moderated for you guys was MegaCon in 2022.
Is that
Orlando?
Orlando. Okay, yeah.
While I was at that convention, in addition to moderating, they set me up with a table like what all of you have for photos and meeting people. And if you're meeting this many people, I met that many people. And I'll tell you, I went home and I passed out.
Right.
I felt like I had just given every ounce of energy I had. And you guys do it all day long, and then you go to another one the next weekend.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by it.
Yeah, it's, that whole convention world has been life-changing, to be honest. I mean, we went through a strike, which was horrific for everyone in this industry. And we had, a stable sort of flow of income, which changes everything. Look, at some point, the very first convention I went to, I saw everyone sitting behind tables, like sort of transacting here and, taking money and giving an autograph. And I thought it just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what that face is. I just did. I went like this. And so I stood up the whole time and I hugged everyone that came to my table. In that convention, my first convention, I think I probably spent like 5 minutes with every person, which is way too much, way too long. But my whole thing was like, and now my thing, now I really know this to be the truth, is that can you make somebody, and Skeet said this, and I love him because we now travel together. And he said to me one day, he said, your special gift is to make people feel seen. And for me, the idea of like, you can hug that little queer kid in Kansas City, or that somebody wrestling with addiction or alcoholism or obesity or whatever, and you, as something that means something to them, can make them feel, even for a second, fucking seen. Like I know that it can save a person's life. I know that because I've had parents come back to me and say, you saved this kid's life. Or, listen, there's lots of people going through things. And if in a moment, Shaggy from that thing a long time ago means something to you, can make an impact, well, then I'm going to be there for it.
It's really incredible. I'll never forget the first thing I said to a friend when that panel was over. I looked at my friend and I'm like, that just made me an even bigger Scream fan than I ever. That's like the coolest thing in the world, just watching, artists that you've been loving since the very beginning and seeing them give back in such a special way. Never stop doing that. It means so much to so many people. I feel like everyone out there will think I lost my mind if I don't try to ask you a couple of Scream questions.
Please
and
do.
I know you've been asked every Scream question under the sun. So
I thought you were going to ask me questions I haven't been asked.
This was an especially fun challenge for me. So I am curious to hear if you've ever answered these or thought about these. Maybe you won't have an answer for these. I don't know. So just recently I was doing an interview with someone, and one of the things that they told me was their favorite part of the acting process is that part where you hit set and you're getting into a new character for the very first time, and you could feel like you're on unstable ground. You don't really know who they are yet. But then you have that moment either on set or maybe in prep where you have just found your character. Did you have that with Stu? And if so, when?
I'm wondering if I really agree with the premise of the question.
Everyone's got a different approach to the work. I get that.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely moments. Yeah, that's so funny. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but I don't think that I don't have it.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there that I'm like, I could be lying or make something up. I don't remember, look, it's 20 some odd years ago, right? And
I'll remember what I did last week.
Yeah, exactly. And in some, and sort of the stories I tell myself or we tell ourselves about those moments are really predicated on the stories you've told over 100 times, right? So like, what is an actual original memory and what is just some regurgitation of an answer you've given 1,000,000 times?
Does
that make sense?
I think about it with photos all the time.
Sure,
How much
of
am I
course.
actually remembering a moment versus what it looked like in one still frame
But
that I
that
have?
still frame connects you to that moment, that beat, what you were feeling, what you're wearing, what happened earlier in the day, what happened. There's an anchor to that memory. And the great thing about films, about doing films, is that that whole film is an anchor to my life in that moment. And it's such a celebration of like, a lot of people go to college, a lot of people sort of have that experience. We had this movie, right? It felt like college. It felt like you were making friends for life. It felt like, we were going out to eat during the weekends. We'd get home at 6 a.m. covered in blood, and we go to David Arquette's room to have drinks. Like, we were sort of like in our peak youth. And so, I don't know if I had a moment of like, oh, I'm in now. I definitely have a moment like in that, the last sequence of that house, really owning being a part of this film, like, and being validated. Like, I think Wes Craven did a great job of making us all feel validated and that our work was good. And he wanted more of what we were doing, and yeah. And I've told the story before, but I think I'll tell it again now because I think it's worth repeating, because I do think that there are moments in life that you need to hold on to great memories, to the good shit to get you through the bad stuff, and, for me, there's a moment in that movie where, I don't know if I've ever said this on a podcast or whatever, but there's a moment in the movie where we had one cell phone on set. Like, that's crazy in itself, right? and I went out to call my mom on her birthday, and it was Marianne and Wes Craven were sitting outside, and I'm like, hey, do you mind if I borrow the phone to call my mom? And it's her birthday. And he's like, Wes said, oh, we were just talking about you. Oh yeah, what'd you say? And he said, someday you're going to win an Academy Award. And I've told the story 1,000,000 times. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I was like, oh yeah, well, I tell my mom that. And he picked up the phone and called my mom and said, hey, your son's incredible. He's going to win an Academy Award someday. And so in my life, when when you feel insecure about your own career, talk about being canceled or never getting a chance to work again, or all these beats, you have to hold on to moments when you feel like you were incredible. And so for me, Wes gave me this anchor in my life where I was like, oh, somebody out there believes that, an icon for me, like a very pivotal person in my life, felt like I was good enough to win an Academy Award one day. Now, look, Academy Awards and all that, the older you get, it's not relevant, but the sentiment was. And yeah, and so that, you're talking about a moment in that movie where you felt, oh, I hold on to that.
That's a beautiful memory.
It is beautiful.
I think that's a little more important than the type of memory I was going for. So I'm glad you pivoted in that direction. I have so many follow-up questions. I'm trying to think about how to organize them right now. I'll stick with Scream for one quick second, because the other thing that I really love hearing about, and I also don't know if you would label. I don't know if you would label your breakout.
I didn't get emotional, by the way. That was totally CGI.
I think you asked me that. I'm like, no.
I'm telling you, sons of bitches. Don't judge me. I'm a greaser.
So I always love asking people about having their breakout moments in Hollywood, because it could be very different from our limited perspective compared to the person actually experiencing the breakout. And again, maybe it's not Scream in your mind and it's something else, so feel free to swap in another title. But two-part question about that. What would you say is the biggest misconception about what it's really like breaking out in Hollywood? Right. But then also, what is something about Scream that really did change the game for you for the better?
Well, what do you consider a breakout? What does breakout mean to you?
It's a very difficult thing to define, which is why I started asking the question. My really bare bones basic way of looking at it is something that kind of kicks the door open to more opportunities, and opportunities that speak to the opportunity to maybe pick instead of having that feeling like I need everything. Yeah,
it changes the trajectory.
Yes.
Right? A little. Look, definitely Scream was a movie that nobody expected. Wes Craven, God bless his heart, was on a cycle of not great movies. It starred two actresses that were on TV. Like back then, that wasn't a thing. They didn't really cross over. And something incredible happened in the zeitgeist. We caught fire at a moment that, 6 months later, who knows if it happens a year earlier, probably doesn't. But in that moment, it blew up. So definitely a pivotal movie in my life. It changed a lot of people's trajectory. It did not change mine. It was not a moment in any way, shape, or form where all of a sudden I got any different attention, period. And that really sort of solidified for me. Now looking back, I was like, oh, I was just destined to sort of be this blue collar actor, which is great. And I like my career. Don't get me wrong. If you've given me my career coming in, I'd be like, you got to be kidding me. That's incredible. But I really wanted to be the number one on the call sheet in every movie ever done. And it just never sort of went that way. And so this idea of a breakout role, this idea of changing trajectory, sure, it made me more relevant to some capacity, but in those early days of Scream, it didn't open up opportunities. Now the movie has elevated sort of its rebirth has elevated me in a way. I feel like in the industry at conventions between that and Scooby-Doo and now Five Nights at Freddy's, like there's like a whole different, I've reached a new plateau in my life, which is really weird, which is unexpected, deeply appreciated. But it's also like, things just shifted in my life in a way, which is because of Scream, but now it's like 25 years later. Does that make sense?
No, it is pretty wild.
Weird.
I think about that a lot because obviously I've been a diehard fan since 1996, but I feel like the fandom wasn't, probably as strong, but maybe not as evident even when Scream 4 came out in 2011. It wasn't until even after that I don't know, I saw it and I felt it everywhere. I guess I didn't really fully feel the weight of it until I started going to conventions and I was surrounded people whose, frankly, lives were defined by their love for that movie.
It's everywhere. I mean, it's like the Scream mask is everywhere. It's Hollywood season. It's Halloween season, and you can see it every third kid that comes.
You don't
through.
even need it to be Halloween season.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And I do think that they did in the film. They made a big deal of those original characters. Like they put Jamie Kennedy's character on this altar and this house. I mean, I think that that's part of this as well. Like they've sort of like they lifted the original film, and I feel like it's just sort of
I love seeing it. I want more. I want more Scream love out there. Yeah.
What do you think it's good that Kevin came back? Are you excited about Kevin coming back?
I'm excited. In Kevin, I trust. His last movie that's on my brain, he didn't direct it, but Sick, I thought was really well done, and I thought it was really well executed by that director. And I mean, who now knows the brand better than he does?
Yeah.
So I've got faith in him.
Yeah,
I'm eager to see more.
I'm excited to. I loved 5. I love 6.
I love 5 and 6.
I don't like the violence in 6. I don't like the shotgun.
Violence.
I don't like the gore. So I'm excited for Kevin to sort of, I'm curious, I can't wait to see what he's going to do.
Okay. Well, not even if you had an answer to this, you'd be able to give me the real answer. So it's safe to assume you are not involved in Scream 7?
I am not involved in Scream.
Okay.
And if I am, I'm a great liar.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Am I telling the truth?
I mean,
who wants to know?
I don't know.
Who wants to know the truth? I have always, every Thursday of the second month, I drop a TV on my head. I'm like, he's still alive. Put him in the movie.
Yeah, I have that argument with friends all the time. Listen, I love you in the role. My biggest fear is that you come back to the role and Stu's not dead, and then it takes away the impact of the ending of the original. It's like it worries me a little.
You worry about weird shit.
This is what I think
you're conspiring against me.
This interview's over. I also need you to do a whole bunch of other things.
Listen, I will tell you, I've now ruined the dice tower.
No, it's okay.
We really have
apart.
to get you a better dice tower. This dice tower.
It's been through a lot. It's been to a lot of places.
Terrible.
It's like little fires broken off. I have work to do on that. Let's see if I remember my bajillion of other follow-up questions for you. I know.
I know. We have to go faster. I talk too much.
I'm gonna do
Let's come back. I'll come back and do it next week.
Fine.
Kate always comes back. Why can't I come back?
You can come back whenever you want.
I like talking about me. What a great podcast.
Here's the 2 follow-up questions before I get into some upcoming stuff that you have that's really cool. The first one that crossed my mind is when you brought up that story about Wes and you mentioned the Oscar.
So stupid.
Tears from a place of
so stupid.
Passion. I love it. It was beautiful.
So stupid.
So you brought up an Oscar then. You don't have your Oscar nomination yet, and I'm willing to say that and manifest it because I know you're capable of it. You do have a SAG nomination to your name, though, which I think is a very special thing via the ensemble work you did in The Descendants. And, I know nobody does this kind of artwork to win awards, but it can really mean something when you get that kind of honor. So when you got the SAG ensemble nomination for The Descendants, what did that mean to you at that point in your career? Not
a lot. No, I mean, look, I want, to me, that movie, I think is the best movie I've ever been in, bar none. I think that movie is incredible. I think that Alexander Payne is an extraordinary filmmaker. And I think that George Clooney, without a doubt, turns in one of the great performances in modern cinema that people don't give credit for. Anytime that you are sitting in a movie and you're laughing hilariously, uproariously at Judy Greer, and then George turns and says goodbye to his wife. When you were laughing to crying in less than 4 seconds and you don't even know what happens, it's just remarkable, right? And so for me, that movie it was a gift to be a part of. And it came at a time when I hadn't been working. It came at a time where I literally was like, I didn't know if I was ever going to work again. It was right before my 40th birthday and I got this job. And the story about getting that job is long and it's not worth getting into at this point. But, I basically walked in, and I said to him, I'm going to audition. The reason I'm auditioning is because I want to work for you one day. I am never getting the job of the guy who screws George Clooney's wife. But the privilege to work for you in this room is worth me being here. But I've got to go. So can we just do this really quickly so I can leave and pick up my kids? And he was like, yeah. And Alexander Payne said, that was a great audition or whatever. I know exactly what he said because it means a lot to me, but I don't want to talk about it. And it was super powerful what he said. And I'm like, yeah, too bad. I said to him, too bad I'm never getting this job. And so to me, it was about being on that journey, seeing the inside of Hollywood, the underbelly of Hollywood. That was the height of Harvey and getting Academy Awards, and The Artist, while as a lovely film, was not the best film of that year. It was the most paid for film of that year. And I think it's horrific that, cinematic sort of icon in American cinema, George Clooney, was snubbed.
I could go on and on about that conversation and the
whole
ripple
thing
effect.
is a sham. Listen, I think they're taking it back. I think they're adding diversity.
Yes.
I think they're adding young voices. I think they're adding women. It's aging out. So there's a lot of great things about the Academy right now. But when it was that moment at that time, what I saw, my personal experience, was that it did not go to the best actor, in my opinion.
I very much understand that opinion. So the other thing that I've been thinking about based on a lot of your answers, and just you very clearly are a person who makes art from a place of passion and you deeply care about how your art influences other people. And I've gotten in the habit of asking this question since the movie Maxine came out. Did you happen to see it?
I didn't, but I know this. I know the story.
A little backstory for why I asked this. Elizabeth Debicki plays a director in that movie. And at one point she says this line, if this movie that I'm working on right now takes off, it's going to allow me to have a more meaningful voice in Hollywood. So I started to ask this. When you first started out in this industry, what did you think having a meaningful voice in Hollywood meant? And now, all these years later, what does having a meaningful voice in Hollywood mean to you?
Yeah, so brilliant question. When I first started in Hollywood, I just wanted the chicks. Let's be real. I was in it to get some. This idea that you come in with this sort of I want to be an artist. I went to school. I was the artistic director of multiple theater companies. Like, I love the art. But when Serial Mom came out, I walked past the theater that the movie was in because I wanted to be recognized. I wanted to pull up to the club with the fancy car. I wanted sort of that moment of like, I was 22 years old. Like I was, it's like this idea of like, I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be rich and I wanted to have jobs and opportunities. I quickly learned that no amount of success is satiating. I'll say it again. No amount. Like Tom Cruise is out there, he's done everything. And that homie still wants something in his life. So if we agree that fame, success, money gives you nothing, doesn't satiate anything, then what is the thing that brings you joy? And the thing that brings you joy is the creative process. The thing that brings you joy is the journey across a lifetime, right? And so I came up, when I started teaching, I came up with this idea or this sort of allegory of, that we are all, as artists, we are all these antelopes on the Serengeti. Our job as artists is to spend an entire lifetime doing what we love and die on the other side with the other antelopes. And our job is to be together as we travel across the Serengeti and trying not to get eaten by shit, right? And that just means like you go back and get a job, or you stop doing what you're passionate about to sort of fall in line and, become an accountant. Nothing wrong with being an accountant. There's magic in numbers. But if you're an artist, it's about longevity and about maintaining that sort of artist spirit. Here's the thing. It doesn't mean you have to be famous. It has nothing to do with being famous, right? There's no reason as an artist, you're an artist, that you're not expressing yourself in some way. This is how you're expressing yourself. Yeah. This is your journey as an artist, right? What you think is going to be the thing isn't always the thing. And you have to be open to the things that bring you joy.
Oh, without a doubt. It was beautifully said. You have so many things coming up that I'm going to ask about. For the first one I want to ask about is Killer Cakes, which is on Prime Video on October 8th. I was watching the trailer. It looks delightful. 2 questions about that.
Yeah.
First, what would you say is the biggest misconception you had about what it takes to host a reality food competition show going into filming that?
I actually sort of went in eyes open. I like being on camera. I think I have fun, and I think that comes across. And as such, I wasn't really. Doing a cooking show, like the thing that they do is crazy, and the amount of time they do in it is bananas.
Yeah.
It does suck that when you tell, like you shoot your coverage of the announcement of the winners and losers, then you shoot their coverage.
Oh,
it's really brutal because they already know that they haven't won or they have won. It's really horrible. That's the one thing I was like, oh, this is heartbreaking. And I was shocked at how much I loved. I was really rooting for everyone.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm all in. Look, I did it. It was a thing I did on a lark, and I'm glad I did it. It was fun.
It looks like fun. And the work looks absolutely incredible.
Fun. And they're incredible artists.
Do you have to have any like sense or skills of baking yourself?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you're not a baker?
No. Could care less. Could care less. And that's the great thing. I was literally there. I was like a Muppet. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to, and like people were behind. I'm like, you guys, let's go. Stop around. Let's go. So I was a cheerleader /
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to have on that kind of set. So you don't bake.
You keep asking questions about my expectations versus reality.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because you said, what is the thing you expected? And about working in the film and television industry.
I think this is how I like to interview in general, and I think phrasing things that way gets at this. I love hearing about how people learn and grow every single step of the way, and that's always like a good connector. Like when you go into a new thing, what did you think from your past experiences, and how did that new experience, exceed those expectations, work them? I don't know.
Can I just go back then and answer that question one more time? Because I do think it's interesting. I think the thing I didn't expect, I thought that once you became successful, you'd always be successful. I thought the trajectory was always up. And the reality for any artist out there is it's never always up. And that what you have to do is learn to mitigate the down. Right? No actors ever left acting because they act too much. You lose actors, you lose artists because in between is self-destructive. It takes too long, and you may not get you may never get up to the flow again. So I think that going in, the things I try to teach, I'm a better teacher than I am an actor. I'm a better teacher than I am anything in my life. I think I take great pride in it, is that it's not about the job. It's about the longevity. So anyway, sorry. I
understand
brought it
that.
up, and I do think that I want everyone to know that. I want every actor out there to know. I want every musician or painter that it's not just all good. That shit gets bad, and when it gets bad, like what is the thing that's like what is your survival skill to get you to the other side?
Do you have a survival skill, something you turn to during the down moments to kind of keep yourself centered?
We're about to talk about it, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you have other questions.
The next thing on my list, I actually had a couple of questions about this because I was saying before we even started rolling, I last week did my very first Critical Role interview for Legend of Vox Machina, and I've become like fascinated by their world. And so before the tequila, it was the bourbon, and you did a collaboration with them. I know you're into D&D on your own, but I am curious, through that collaboration, is there anything you saw about their creative process that, wowed you, or maybe speaks to why they were able to build such a massive empire with that?
Yeah, they're incredibly generous. Critical Role is the longest ongoing, I think, streaming show for live D&D play. Every show is 3 hours long. They've been on forever now. They now have a new animated series on Amazon called Vox Machina, which is incredible. Good. And look, I think the crazy thing there is that the reason the show is popular is you saw a bunch of people sitting around the table having fun playing a game. To me, the best way to spend a life is sitting around a table playing games, right? Because you're in fellowship. In fellowship is where joy lives for humanity. That's why we sit around fires and tell stories. That's why we go to church. Like the gathering of people is joyful. And so I think they're successful because A, they're incredibly talented. B, they're having a blast. And C, they are not precious with the creative process. They are just creating. They're not scared of making mistakes. They just keep creating. So they're beautiful. They're beautiful.
Really is something else. And I just appreciated the 3 members that I spoke to last week. Like I was a total newcomer. All I did was binge their show before I sat down and spoke with them. It's like so welcoming and quick to like explain where everything started. Like it made me feel like I was welcomed in with open arms. And that's the most important thing in the world.
I think that happens in the geek culture. I think that we have, sort of being the grandfather of geek culture at this moment. But, I think that having been an outsider my whole life, learning disability, transplant, obesity, just not fitting in, an actor, finding other people like you, you're like, you're here. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a welcoming to that. There's a welcoming to that, like these communities of outsiders,
It is so true. That's why I love the convention environment now, too.
Yes.
So you work with them on the bourbon. Now it's on to tequila with Mike Flanagan. Is there anything about developing the bourbon with them that has influenced how you developed the tequila stuff with Mike so that they fuse together in a stronger way this time around?
So before that step, right, I created a company called Beetle and Grimm's. Yes. We create high-end gaming accessories for Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering.
My dice tower is shitty.
I know this is an embarrassment. But that was born out of, friends that have been playing D&D since we were 21 in New York. We still play together. We were all having sort of the most gentle, lovely midlife crisis. And we're like, we want to do something else. And they were all in sort of like good jobs, middle management jobs. But the idea of doing something that we owned was really enticing. And so we launched this company. And it's been hugely successful. And I think they've all left their jobs. And within that, with them leaving their jobs, around that same time, a buddy of mine called me up, this guy Justin Ware, who's my partner in Find Familiar Spirits, called me up and said, hey, would you be interested in combining sort of what you're doing with D&D with whiskey? And our other sort of co-conspirators, Tim Sparapani, who had just sold his company called Blue Run to a very big company. And so it was in the process of that. And so what we did is the three of us got together and started to craft this thing called Quest Zen. And each bottle is a continuation of an ongoing saga across 16 different drops. Each bottle is a different character class. Each bottle is a different expression of whiskey. And then each bottle is a different chapter of the story. So we launched with Paladin. It sold out in a week. We then had 25,000 people on the waiting list. We've now done 5 different drops in the year. Today, October 2nd, you're probably not watching it today, but October 2nd is our 1-year anniversary. And we've had an explosion of success. And part of that is that we did a collaboration with Critical Role. And then within that fandom, right, our whole idea is like, can you build luxury goods for communities that are on the outside looking in, or communities that are voracious about what they love? And we that's our business model. We build high-end spirit experiences around communities and then engage the community. So our first one was Dungeons and Dragons, sort of sword and sorcery. Collaboration with Critical Role, which is a one-off. We are doing more in the future, which we're excited about. But then, like, what is the next chapter of that? And that is why tonight, like literally, I'm leaving here in any minute.
Yes, I'm watching the time.
I'm already late.
Watching the time.
But I'm leaving here to go do a live sort of announcement about our next project, which is Macabre Spirits. And Macabre Spirits is a tequila, reposado tequila, that is built in a love. It's a token of love to the horror community. Each bottle has a different novella as part of the experience. So we go direct to customer. So we are not in stores yet. And each one of them comes with a book. I went to Mike Flanagan, as we discussed, who's the best. And I said, hey, do you have any interest in writing a short story? He jumped at the opportunity and he wrote something called Rare, Fine, and Limited. It's his first novella. It's his first short story. It's earth-shatteringly good. Our brand is built around this idea of literary horror. So it's not slasher, but as you turn the page, you're enveloped in this world of Mike Flanagan. So we go on sale the 22nd of October, and we are like over the moon. The tequila's great. The bottle's beautiful. The book is exquisite. We worked with this artist named Mia Bergeron, who's an incredible artist. So she read the story, she interpreted the story and put a painting on the front of the bottle. And so we don't know how it's going to do. It could fail miserably.
I got a good feeling about that. I mean, even just sitting here, hearing you talk about it, I get very obsessed with ideas that, like, one, bring people together and create community, but also new inventive ways to expand storytelling.
Yes.
And I've never heard of anything like this before. It seems like a one-of-a-kind experience, and
it's
like
great.
One
and
I want to have.
Yeah, and the next one will have a different story. And then, so we'll keep doing these across, as long as people are interested. But our belief is that if you craft something with passion, with an authentic sort of point of view, and you're not selling to everyone, you're creating an opportunity for the people you want to create opportunities for to engage. Building for other people, not for everyone. Yeah. Building for specific communities, not for everyone, has been super rewarding for us as a team, because we're like, oh, we know our people and we're going to give them something awesome.
Such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's good. It's really, and so for me, how do I get through? I'm literally the co-CEO, co-founder of this company that I literally work at a desk every day, all day, sort of answering the riddles that are no longer on set, that are as a leader of this company. And it's been, it's a different side of my brain. I had a learning disability my whole life, so I've always thought I was stupid, right? That my bullshit story I tell myself, right, is that I'm stupid. And as I've gotten older, I've grown into my own power. I've grown into my wisdom, which is a word I like to use a lot. But, in this moment, I've been challenged. And every step of the way, I'm making mistakes. Every step of the way, I'm succeeding. And we are, as a company, like really excited about the future. We have so many things on the horizon that we're like different communities. Like, can you do something here? Can you do something there? Like, what is the next expression of this? So, it's really great.
What a cool thing. Yeah. I don't have to let you go. Very briefly, because
Yeah.
I'll get skewered on the internet if I don't ask one question
Sure.
about Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Great question. So this morning I got a text with my dates. So my dates are, the beginning of October and another series of dates. So
real? Like shooting
No, not
dates?
October, November. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
November, yeah.
Okay.
So we're
That's
going to
exciting.
work. I'm really thrilled. I think that the script has come along. I think the script's fantastic.
I
think
love
that
Emma.
She's
I think
great.
she's one of the greatest.
She's really lovely. And Josh is great. And the whole cast is great. And I think we're all excited to come back. I think we learned a lot in the first film. I think the second film is going to sort of benefit from those things. And we're all excited about where the movie's at right now. And to be, last time the movie came out, none of us could sort of promote it.
Yeah.
Because we were all in a strike. And, and it was on Peacock because nobody really knew what was there. I knew. Because I'm in amongst the kids every weekend. I'll have kids in Five Nights gear or a spring trap or a Freddy costume. And, it's, like I said, it's rounding third base, coming for home in a career to have something as iconic and sort of beloved by such a new generation. Is a crazy gift, and I'm eternally grateful to be a part of it.
It is a special thing that everybody is very, very excited about. I hear about it all the time, and I am excited as well. This is the very last question of Collider Forces. Every single one of these interviews ends on this particular question. So we've talked a little bit about awards. I love awards in this industry. I do think it's really great that people give each other awards and applause and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I find that very few people in film and television tell themselves good job as much as they should. I want to know something you accomplished recently that you can always look back on and say, I am so proud of what I did right there.
Life of Chuck and Five Nights at Freddy's. Both of those performances are sort of what I like about me, which is I can be really simple and small, and I can also chew the shit out of scenery. And I like it when I can do both, right? And so there's a great moment at the beginning of Five Nights where, he's playing this, the work counselor. And I love that. And then get to do at the end what happens there. And then, the sort of humanity of Gus in Life of Chuck is one of those things that I will always cherish.
As you should. That is such a special film, and I can't wait to be blabbing about it now all the way through next summer and beyond. Willing good things in all of your directions for that film. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished, everything you're doing now, everything coming your way in the future. Come back to Forces. I had a million more questions for you.
I will come back. All you have to do is ask.
Anytime you want.
Okay,
anytime.
good.
All right.
Thank you.
We did it.
Bye. Bye. I didn't cry, you sons of bitches.